just stuck around.
Back there on the left.
Yeah, that's good. Something like that. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Darlene. Oh, you're good.
Where's Marty and his
Is this soon?
I don't know, Alan.
Tommy back. Alan and Tommy is married.
I'll give you the next picture.
I got you right there.
Picture and have her hold it up. It's right around the corner there.
You gotta come to yard. Come on. Here, you come on. You gotta come to yard.
Put it over his face.
Are y'all ready?
Let us face the wall.
Put it right over his face, Paul.
I'll hold it, but you gotta be. Is that hard? This is hard.
Our family Paul, I think you're in, man. Happens every time I go out.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, this is a real one. This is a real one. This is the real one. 1, 2, 3. Me too. I got 2 real ones.
Oh, we're gone.
Sure. Julie! No wonder your voice is so hungry. Okay, everybody get your candy. Get your candy ready. Julie. Oh, what kind of sugar? Joyce is the only team we have that's that foolish.
I'll look like a serious one here in a minute.
Oh, yeah. You made this candy out of the baby.
Well, look, Mama, look at all of them. Look at Julie. Look at Andy. You're going to be looking at my paper to the dime. I can't get one.
Get that.
Well, what kind of serious one here?
He's good, guys. I think it's there. Nathan, don't do that.
What is
Everybody take it out. Take it out. Okay. Okay, now we do good.
Okay, get that candy in your mouth. It's a real one.
Getting Andy's best side.
She is clearly the Betty Dean of that group.
Boys.
I'm sorry.
Mama's up there in that picture.
Beauty calls and all that.
Thank you, Andy.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Anybody know where we're supposed to look?
Now, which one are we supposed to look? We're all going to have eyes
Look
everywhere.
right here.
Roll them around.
I had to. Did somebody pick up my camera? I took
Thanks twice.
Thanks, man. All right.
We need to go to bed.
I bought cheese out of the family and did
See, you can tell everybody's got features on that side.
Lana, do you have gum?
Whatever you actually get out of paper,
What? Okay. Okay, now you can take your wrapper off.
Wrapper off.
First hand goes the bubble. Okay, wait.
Wait a minute.
Okay, may I have your attention?
First one. Let's press the one already.
I'm ready.
Raise your hand if you think you blew it. Oh, Brandon had sort of one. That is a pitiful one. Do it better than that. We're talking about a bubble. That is a
Oh, good bubble.
well, it has to be at least 2 inches. Come on, come on.
That's like it's good.
West had it. Everybody do it like West had one like.
Does it count? Okay.
Come here.
Does it
Here
count?
you go.
I can't call.
Pitch them over here.
Pretty good. Oh, clearly Ryan. Okay, keep blowing.
Julie, Julie,
Ah, Julie got her bubble.
Julie. All right. Julie.
Keep blowing.
There. Keep going.
There it is, right on there.
Okay, I'm going for big.
Horse tank.
I mean, I had a good one going. I bet the oldest one was.
Jeannie West was first. West.
Brandon had one.
Brandon gets one.
Brandon had the first one.
Oh, his was pitiful.
You didn't say a good bubble, though. You just said
Going down.
don't start reneging.
These bubble gums don't work.
David.
Didn't make it go.
Emily.
Grab the side.
I'm ready to close this one.
Let's see it, Lou.
Lily has the longest held one.
She's shrinking.
Oh, Lauren, here it
You're
goes.
not humiliating this here.
Raise your hand if you have a big one. Oh, Aaron.
Lynn did a good one.
You missed it.
I saw it. I've got it on camera. I've got it.
Shrinking.
You know, that guy got. I'm sorry you didn't win.
I can't get a cookie. But the cookies are going quick.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, Phillips, now.
We just have one more thing. Oh, okay. I'll just stay there.
Get in here.
Are we all getting here?
Okay, here we go. All eyes with my Savior, and with my sovereign God. Good evening, all that sacred for such as I. At the cross, where I first saw the light, and the burden of my heart was great. It was there by faith I received my sight, and now I am happy all the day. Well, bright the sun is bright the sun, and shining His glories in. When Christ Almighty came and died, for men the creatures sing. At the cross, where I first saw the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight, and now I am happy all the day. Y'all can tell I don't know the last from the third. 82. We like you, sir. Let's sing. Hey, I like that. Oh, baby. That's good. One more thing. We're going to have Dr. Feller Victory in Jesus, okay? Fast, Jesus. All right.
Baptist tempo, not church spread.
Okay, here we go. Fast. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He saw me and bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me and I knew Him, and all my love is to Him. He plunged me to victory, beneath the cleansing flood. You're going to have to change leader. See, got back. What number?
692.
692. Do you know it? Do you know it?
You better not.
Do you know it?
No, I don't think anyone's doing it.
I don't know it.
Yeah, you do. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
What number y'all on?
692.
Oh, I got. We heard 80.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was.
We heard 80.
There's some wonderful stories about Joyce and Lump and Betty Dean and Jess and Bob. And I've heard a lot of stories about Bob last night that I hadn't heard. And some pretty good ones. You know, I was thinking when we were planning all this that this was going to be a little more structured than what Mom and Pop would like. What they would really like was for folks to show up and wouldn't have to eat at the table. You could sit on the steps or, you know, wherever you want to do that. And that would be fine. So this wouldn't have been necessarily something they liked. You know, but what I wanted to tell y'all my story was I thought Granny Pop was just my idol, and I wanted to grow up to look just like him, and I wound up growing up to look like Peppy. But, you know, they had that, up above the kitchen, they had I guess you call it a deck now. I don't know what it was, it didn't have a name in those days, but it had the rails around it, and we'd spend summers down there, and I would sail ships from up there, and I would sing from up there, and preach, and make speeches, and announce rodeos and football games, and I grew up and I announced rodeos and football games, and I sing, and I don't preach, but you learn stuff like that, and you never really know when you're growing up what the things you do, what you're going to use. And those of you that don't know Pop and Mom as well as the rest of us, you don't have to worry about that, because the fact that you know their children and grandchildren, you know a part of them, and that's something that will just continue to grow, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And that's all I have, so it's someone else's turn.
Well, since it happened before you knew, for instance, Pop bought a whole stalk of bananas one time. You know, they grow, stick them up, and they cut them off and turn them down. So I guess some salesman had brought some to the grocery store, and evidently Pop bought one of them. He brought it home and hung it between the dining room and, you know, the doorway, and that's all we ate for several days. And nowadays we're so thankful to have fruits and vegetables from all over the world in the stores. But back then, like 1920s and 30s, we didn't have all that. And a lot of people had never even seen a banana. And one of Pop's favorite stories was about the first time that that a fella had seen a banana. They were driving on the train, and the man says, "What is that?" He says, "A banana." He said, "Could I have a taste of it?" So he gave him a taste. About that time, they went under a tunnel. And so pretty soon another man said, "Let me have a taste of that." And this fella said, "Oh no, Said, you don't want to taste that. I took a taste of it and I turned blind as a bat. That was one of Pop's favorite jokes. And the other favorite he loved so much was about the little red schoolhouse. He swore this was the truth. A little boy had wiped his nose on the slate. And the teacher says, Johnny, what is that on your sleeve? Little boy says, you set yourself up to be a teacher and you don't know what snot is. We didn't have very much during the Depression, but Pop did have a steady job with the light company, and they sent gifts for each child. But mostly people went to the schoolhouse, and they got a little sack of fruit, nuts, and candy, you know, and that's about it. Sometimes people would put a doll on the tree and we'd all be so envious. But one time we got a little poem off the tree, and I don't remember the words, but it all rhymed. Pop had made it up. It said, go home and look for another note under the old elm tree. So we went down there, and some of the neighbor kids, little kids, all were so interested, they all came. So, were you old enough to remember that? You weren't. And so down under the elm tree, it said to go up to Miss Webster's house on the porch and find another note. So we did like that all around, you know, the community for a long time. Finally, it said go upstairs in that back bedroom, and there was a big red wagon full of hard Christmas candy.
And I'm gonna get some help, but I remember going to a prayer meeting in slacks, you girls in shorts. It's been, you know, just in recent years that you wore shorts to church, but I went to prayer meeting in slacks, and Daddy sent me home to change clothes. And I thought, he'll never believe that I'll come back and I'll just show him. And I honored him by going home, changing my clothes, going back to prayer meeting. And I was probably late, but I've been late forever. I've gotten permission from Red to get him to read a scripture. I found in one of Daddy's Bibles that he said he lived by Psalms 112. And did you? Go ahead. Cordell brought a 4-pound Bible up that Pop wrote in there. Pop doesn't live by Psalms 112. He's going to read it. No, let Red. No, you're showing your Bible, though. Have you got that Bible with you? Yeah, it's written in Paul's handwriting. I want you to read it, Cordell. Red can read anything.
Will Storm gave me the Bible. And since it was large print, I took it to Granny Pop. And I've always been proud that he had it. And he wrote in it, he gave it back to me finally. It says, given to Brother Bales, Broadview Baptist Church, March 18, 1978. That's in his writing. And I said, passed on to our dear Pop for all the good books he gave me when I was a young preacher. He really was the helper in my ministry. He gave me a lot of the starter books that I had in my library. But this, down at the bottom, he wrote in his print, pretty little print, says, Pop Dunham lived from 112 Psalms. And that's what I plan to read kind of a devotional in his honor and Mom. Praise the Lord for all who fear God and trust in Him are blessed beyond expression. Yes, happy is the man who delights in doing His commandments. His children shall be honored everywhere. Now that his children shall be honored everywhere. And for good men's sons have a special heritage. He himself shall be wealthy, and his good deeds will never be forgotten. When darkness overtakes him, light will come bursting in. He is kind and he is kind and merciful. And all goes well for the generous man who conducts his business fairly. Such a man will not be overthrown by evil circumstances. God's constant care of him will make a deep impression on all who meet him. He does not fear bad news, nor live in dread of what may happen, for he is settled in his mind that Jehovah will take care of him. That is why he is not afraid, but can calmly face all his foes. So true, Bob. He gives generously to those in need, and his deeds will never be forgotten. He shall have influence and honor. All right.
You've had a lot of losses in your life. I haven't lost a person, but you did. I remember when Betty Jean died. Jeannie said that people praying for us just kept us on a high. You know, it just kept us so boosted up. Then she come down later. But at the time that these folks died, I guess you go back to your raising and somebody said that our days are numbered, and I felt like it was the time. And that I was to be reminded later on. That was the right time. So, anybody I've lost, you guys lost too. So it's just a shared part of life. And a sweet part of life.
That's for when he got baptized. I don't know when it was. I guess it's when he got baptized. Anyway, Pop, if he could get there, he didn't miss anybody's baptism. So he was over at Claude that night, that Sunday night. They baptized Rhett, and we were over doing the eating when church was over and had folks over. Pop, I got Rhett's Bible, and he was looking at it, and thumbing through it like he was dead, and reached in his pocket and got his pen out, and you could just see the expression on Rhett's face that old man's gonna run his Bible. Of course, Pop got it. He did it. He wrote in that thing. He wrote, Mom and Pop was at Rhett's baptizing at Claude, Texas First Baptist Church, and he gave the date. Said, "There a new name in heaven I know." And we told Rhett that was okay for him to do that. And now then, Betty Dean died that same year. And now with Pop gone, Rhett, this wouldn't take anything for that. I think that's cute.
We got one grandchild here older than me.
Looks,
That's right. I have so many happy memories of Grandma and Pop. And I wish all of you young kids could know what we had. You know, Grandma had a hard life growing up. And some people, when they have hard times, they are bitter and don't become good people. But Grandma was a very wonderful person. And she was determined that her kids were going to have a happy life. And I think those 5 kids had lots of fun. And they wanted their kids to have a good life too. And there wasn't anything in my He was so sweet and precious all the time. And where on earth he came up with Tater Chip Hill, I can't imagine. But it was a magic place. And he told us that if we were good and when everybody got there, that we would go to Tater Chip Hill. And so, we'd have to wait for somebody else, some other bunch to get there, and it would just be all I could do. But finally the time would come and we'd pile up in the pickup. Well, most everybody got to get in the back, on the top, on the side, hanging off, whatever, and we'd go bumping up the road. But of course I had to sit up front because Mother and Daddy were kind of weird that way. But at least I got to go, so I was glad. So here we go.
Still alive.
Right, and that old pickup would just be going, and the dust would be roaring behind us, and we'd get up there on the hills, and we'd turn us loose, and we'd all go running, and there would be like magic. There was orange stuff pops and potato chips and tracks, and sometimes there was candy. And Grandpa said that that they grew there. And I believed it. I truly, honestly believed it. For years and years I believed it. And, we had a Christ-centered home, and we didn't have Santa Claus, and we didn't have Easter Bunny and stuff like that. But I had Tater Chip Hill. Until Keith told me that I was stupid. So he burst my little bubble finally, but I guess that happens. But I just feel like, we are so lucky to have been born into this family, the Christian heritage. Grandpa's prayers were the best sermons I ever heard in my life. And I hope that there's Tater Chip Hills for some of these little ones coming along.
How many's been to Potato Chip?
Yeah.
How many's never been to Potato Chip? There's no figure. Well, Andrea had Potato Chip Hill in Mississippi, so she thinks y'all are Potato Chip.
I think part of Potato Chip Hill was part of a faith builder, because at the bottom of that hill going up to the tower, some remarks I was going to make first, but I think I'll go directly to the Tater Chip Hill. My mother wrote this poem about Tater Chip Hill when Keith and Jim and Bill and John were real small. It says, the bestest fun we ever had, me, Keith, and Jim and John and Bill, was when Granny Pop said, come on now, boys, let's all go up to Tater Chip Hill. Granny Pop went first to scare the bears, and kill the snakes all dead. Then he came back down with a funny grin, and this is what he said. There's lots of goodies up there, boys, and you can eat your fill. Come Keith, come Jim, come John and Bill. Let's all go up to Tater Chip Hill. On Tater Chip Hill, the tater chips grow on great big bags on trees. And soda pop grows right out of the ground, and candy bars on weeds. And bubble gum, oh boy, scattered all around. And we can run and jump and play and roll all over the ground. There's no one there to say, now boys, you simply must be still. When you grow up, you'll try to make the whole world a Tater Chip Hill. Then 3 or 4 or 5 years later, when the boys were larger, my mother wrote this one. We went to Tater Chip Hill again, in a very different way. Granny Pop said, be real nice now, boys. We'll take the girls today. Our mothers and daddies went along, and grandmother, she went too. We thought the fun was really spoiled. We didn't know what to do. On the side of the hill, we stopped to rest, and Granny Pop said, sit down. We could see the graveyard on another hill, and we could see every house in town. Granny Pop said, do you folks know the Lord is mighty good? Now let's bow our heads and thank Him. I really Then Granny Pop prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for all the folks in town, even the folks across the street, the seas, wherever folks are found. He even prayed for us right there, that we might always be pure and honest, kind and true throughout all time to be. We're older now and we understand all the fun on Tater Hill and Hill. Some of us have little ones of our own, but we love our Granny Pop still. I want to tell you just a little bit of the other side of Mr. Dunwood. I spent the first 10 years with my 40 years with the electric company. I spent working with him under his supervision. And he accomplished some very unusual things at a time when those, to give you an example, the electric power would go off frequently in those days. And it might go off in the middle of the night. And he'd need to run down and start the power plant to pick up the load from town. But he wouldn't know the lights were off unless Simply or somebody called him. And sometimes when the lights were off, the phone didn't work. So he devised, I started to say invented, but he devised a thing that's very commonly used today in the automotive industry. It's called a relay. But what he designed was a current off relay, which means that when the current goes off, the points would flow. And he had some of these telephone batteries there and a 12-volt buzzer, so that when the current would go off, the relay would drop, and the points would close and start ringing that bell, and it'd wake him, and he'd go and start the power plant. The most ingenious thing that I think he did, he started to say invented, he didn't necessarily invent it, but he constructed a voltage regulator before voltage regulators were ever made. He had it down in the old power plant, and it was worked. It was a small one. It was just a demonstration model. It was very small. But it actually would regulate the voltage. That was completely unheard of in the early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. Of course, relays and voltage regulators were very common then. But he did so many things before his time, before it was ever used in the industry. I think Gene wanted me to tell about the water system. You people all of you who are acquainted in Miami know that water storage is up on top of Mountain Rod. It's a large tank that's in the ground up on top of the mountain. And the well pump is down by the old power plant, which was almost to the level of the Red Deer River. But we couldn't pump the water from the well pump into the overhead storage because it had sand in it. So it needed to be pumped into a reservoir where the sand would settle out and then pumped out of that reservoir into the overhead storage. He devised this system, which is commonly used today, but it was unheard of in those days, where when the water level would drop in the overhead storage, it would start to pump at the booster, pump out of the storage where the sand had settled out. When that got down to a certain level, it would start the well pump, and it would be pumping into that and that into the other one, and that thing worked many times for months without anybody ever having to do anything to it. He would check it every day, or some of us would. But it was just unbelievable, some of the things that he did way before his time.
Yeah.
Something else that well, just Mr. Dunlap had, you know, they came to Jesus and they said, Master, what is the great commandment? Jesus said, the greatest commandment is thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, with all thy might. And the next greatest is like unto it. Now, they didn't ask for that, but they got it. But Mr. Donovan, as well as anyone I ever knew, followed that second greatest commandment also. He loved his neighbors and himself. There were people in Miami, and I could name some of them, you might remember Johnny Kent, who couldn't pay his electric bill. Johnny had, I don't know, 7 or 8 kids. They were all small. And Mr. Donovan would let him ride that electric bill just as long as he possibly could, but when the company said, that must be taken care of, you must turn him off the click, Mr. Donovan would pay. Because he didn't want to turn him off. There were so many things he did like that. And he didn't want any credit for it. Barney would say, well, I'll pay you when I can. Well, Barney, if you can pay it, that'll be fine, and if you can't, it's all right. But he's a very unusual man. And I spent my life with the electric company, but nearly everything I know, I learned from Mr. Donovan. I appreciate him so much.
The old stubs. And I realized that he had 2 different accounts. He had one that was personal, that he used to pay the bills, and then he had his giving account. And there were check stubs to Jim and I when we first got married, and how many got money from Pop? Okay, your names were all in there, as well as people from Miami and some that I never heard of. He gave money to missionaries, causes, college girls and boys that were in Miami as well as all of us. So he had 2 different accounts, and it goes along with that scripture that Cordell read, that he will, be a giving person, and that's just the way it was. And at his funeral, somebody from the town came up and told me that at prayer meetings, they almost dreaded it when he came because he wouldn't give anybody a chance to pray. And he would go on and on and on, and nobody could get in the lip. So, anyway, when I was going through all his personal effects, well, actually they were Pappy's things, I came across a story that he had told my mother, and she'd written down, and so I rewrote it, and it's called Biddy the Pigeon. Maybe some of you had the story told to you. And as I was going through Joyce's pictures, guess what? There's a picture of the pigeon right here. So this is a true story, and we've got the pigeon to prove it. It's called Biddy the Pigeon, and these are his words, pretty much exactly the way she, every once in a while you have to put in an extra word or 2, and some of your own thoughts, but I didn't do that. I kept it pretty close. It said, Pappy, Mammy, and I were living on the Dial Place, and I put in about 1910, west and north of Miami. At the time, there were so many pigeons that when we would feed the chickens, the pigeons would eat up their feed. Pappy told the boys in town to come out to the place and shoot the pigeons. Now, don't anybody get upset. They were able to kill about 300 pigeons. The following day, while I was out at the barn, I heard a cheeping high up in the nest. I got the ladder and found old Biddy and his sister. I took them to the house, and Mammy let me keep them. To get them to eat, Mammy would tap, tap, and they would open their bills. She'd put a grain of kaffir corn into their mouths. Anybody want to tell me what kaffir corn is? Maize, a type of maize. I think
Like
that's
Sudan.
I don't know. Soft. Was it good? I mean, sweet? What?
It's Catholic.
Just Kathy, okay.
It was real good feed to feed the horses mainly.
Okay.
It was a large funnel and had a long black head of grain on it.
Oh.
You could feed one horse on
Oh.
one shot.
Okay, well, he soon had to run. Oh, wait, sister didn't live long, but he kept growing. He
soon had the run of the house. He got in trouble one day when Mammy baked a pound cake and set it up on the safe to cool. Biddy was flying by now and landed right in the middle of the cake, checking it all around. Man. Little urge, add that in, okay? it was better for Biddy to be outdoors. When I was outside, Biddy would ride on my shoulder. Even after we moved to the Thornhill place, Biddy went with us. He would go with me anytime I was outside. Even on horseback, he'd perch on my shoulder. In the summer, when we started hauling wheat to town, about 9 miles, he'd sit on the springboard with me for several miles and then fly home. One day, he rode all the way to town with me. In town, he saw these town pigeons flying around, and he figured out they were like him. He flew away with them. I felt really bad when I couldn't find him anywhere and had to go home without him. When I drove the team into the barn lot, there was old Biddy. He'd beat me home, and not only that, he brought himself a missus. There he was on his box that was attached to a pole, trying to get her to come in. The two of them set up housekeeping. In about a year, there were 32 pigeons on the place. Yeah. We moved again over to the Clark place and took Biddy and his missus with us. The other pigeons wouldn't leave the Thornhill place, so we just had the two of them. This is a sad part. Because Biddy was not familiar with or afraid of cats, this one cat on the place caught Biddy and killed him. Man. No. When Dad found out, he got his gun, found the cat, and killed it. His missus just kept flying around looking for Biddy. I've never seen anything so lonesome as she looked. After several days passed, she flew back over to the Thornhill place to be with the other pigeons. So that's the end. I'm sorry it ended that way. That would be Mammy. And one for Ollie. Now, Ollie had been married 2 years, but they didn't take one out of the ring. I don't know why.
Maybe with that.
Huh? Oh. But they had to list some information about themselves. It says that R.D. was 46 when this was taken out. He weighed 190 pounds. He was 5 foot 11 inches. And his father died at age 28 of typhoid pneumonia. And his mother died at age 63 of senility. Senility, we found out, just means old age. And then Mammy's had to have the same information. You guys want to know how many? She weighed 132. She was 5 foot 3. Does that fit some of us? Sure. She said her father died at age 64, and he died from being overheated. And her mother was still alive at the time. So that was some of the stuff I found out. So if what I have is true here, you can help me out, Joyce. You probably know. David Donovan was Patty's father, and there was Richard R.D., his brother William Green, and there was a sister named Tommy, and another brother named Joe, and one named Clarence. So that's 5 kids, and he died at age 28. I don't know who raised them or where they were raised, but Patty was born in Fayetteville, Tennessee. And then Bernice, his cousin, Granny Pop's cousin, said that her dad, William Green, moved to Lone Oak, Texas with Uncle Hintz, who was David Green's brother, from Nashville, Tennessee. So, I don't know where they all were, and I'm not sure where to start looking for them. So I'm going to start in Lone Oak, I think, and work back. Do you know?
I didn't know for sure, but I was always under the impression that Green Donovan was his only full sibling.
Cornbread, not baked.
He'd come in at night, and that's all he could eat that. He'd be just happy. And you probably remember he always had one coffee cup with a spoon hanging in it. He'd put it up on the refrigerator, and that was always his cup. He's always up before dawn. You'd go visit there, and Pop would be up by 4 or 5, and he probably would have already worked a couple hours by the time you got up. And something I always thought was neat about Pop was he was always retired when I knew him. I never saw him have a regular job, and I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, his gadgets and inventions, just to name a few of them, when they had the tornado at Miami, he rigged up a big old saw hooked up to some kind of motor that would run on its own and cut through that huge elm tree. And you have a pea potting machine, you put peas in it, twirl it around, and the peas would all pop out. Around the house, you know, he had remote light switches right next to all the beds. This was long before that stuff was common. You could be laying at the bed and just hit the headboard light, and the light would go on. And he also had y'all kids might think it's funny, but he could mute his TV from his easy chair. Before that was real common.
Because he didn't like commercials.
Yeah, he clicked those babies off.
Top switch, and he was good to go.
And you know, that was a real luxury, I guess, and now it's real common.
Bob,
And you
Bob carried on the tradition of the
thing you needed, and I think my mother told me this story, but all the kids at Miami, when they went through driver's ed, they always told the kids that when they saw all these pickup trucks, that no matter what the situation was, Pop had the right of way. And going back to the gadgets, funny thing, Mom told me one time, and this is kind of typical of Mom, because she's such a hard worker, but she was looking at Pop, and then she looked at me, and he spent the better part of the day working on some crazy project. And Mom said, don't be like Grandpa. By the time he figures out how to do it the easy way, you could have had it done. You could have saved all that time. Could have had it done the hard way and saved all that time. And one kind of poignant thing was Pop came to visit us when Haley's Comet was there. And, you know, you couldn't really see it real well, and people were kind of disappointed. But he went outside and he laid out the backyard probably for an hour and a half on an easy chair, letting his eyes get accustomed to the light, to the darkness. And he laid out there long enough till he decided he saw that Haley's Comet, and I'm sure that he did. And that was he lived long enough to see it twice. And one other thing, he was always really proud of his trip to Alaska, James. He always think about that. If anybody knows the Geronimo story, you know, he said something about Geronimo coming through there and leaving the cows.
No,
They
no,
was
no,
Parker. Okay,
Yeah, I know that story. Why Parker?
down there and said, go get my old truck, get the stuff out of it. And I hung on to this.
And you can try it.
Y'all know Pop's conversion story.
We have it on video, we'll show it later.
Good.
I don't know if he was hanging in this belt or not. But we like to lost him. Just got it up high there. Pop said, if you'll get me down off this pole, I'll give my heart to you. And did he tell you the same as told me that it melted change in his pocket together? I mean, this wasn't just a little joke, folks. This was, but this,
I remember seeing the burn on his, where his pocket was, and on his foot, because it went out the nails in his shoes.
So he got electrocuted working the line.
he was working on a line in a thunderstorm and lightning hit down the way. You talking about
the time
when he got burned on
Yeah,
I guess you shoulder.
yeah, shoulder, and it went,
Yeah.
and the heat from his coin.
I feel like I need to hit on behalf of him. That was an era that was not his era. We had people from Georgia working there, and one man was supposed to, this was before. Sweet spirit.
Yeah.
Oh boy. She wouldn't want to eat. She'd get mad. She'd just
get them jaws down, shake her head at you, And you just couldn't tell Grandma no, I'm not going to cry her now. And it was difficult for Mother.
Oh, but she didn't complain.
But she never did she? She just,
Sweet spirit.
sweet spirit. Sweet Grandma.
Parker had been raised as an Indian, and then his mother was taken back down to South Texas. I think he went with her, so he learned the white man's way, but he also knew the Indian way. And he became a businessman in the cattle business, and he was herding cattle up through the Texas Panhandle, and he had 28 cattle, about something maybe like that were sick. And I forgot what Pop said they had. And so Quanah asked Pappy if he could leave them there at the ranch on the Dial place, and he would come back through on his way back and pick them up. Well, about 3 days after he left them, they all
No,
died.
they made oh, no, it wasn't that easy. Grandpa was supposed to water them and feed them.
Water and
Yeah,
food.
this was before his conversion
Okay, here we go.
experience. Grandpa was supposed to water and feed them. Quanah made a deal that if they survived when he got back, he would pay him for the expense of watering and feeding them. And if they died, then Grandpa could just take the hides, and that would be his payment for caring for them. And he said after those boys, a couple of boys had helped him, they hauled water, because they had to haul the water. After they did that for 3 or 4 days, they decided that was going to get to be a really bad job. And they took spikes.
Oh, I don't know this
They
part.
took spikes and they killed every one of them right through because they knew that the hides would shrink up enough that you'd never know how they died. And told Quanah that
That's the same story. That's the truth.
and that's
I was about 10. With Papa and Mama joined the Baptist church. Huh? Louder. I got hearing aid in, so I sound pretty loud. Take it out and talk.
Take it out, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Bob and James were, about like these kids. And they were acting up, and so Pop hit their heads together and she sent them scooting across that linoleum floor. Pretty soon after that, Rick became a Christian, and he controlled his temper after that. He never laid a hand on anybody after that.
And they asked him to sing in the choir at First Baptist Church, Miami, and that's what got him going to church.
Yeah, because he had a pretty tenor voice, and they wanted him to come sing.
But he told and that the pastor had been trying to get him to join the church, and he couldn't understand that connection. He couldn't understand what the need was. Mom took all the kids to church, and he didn't go, and he couldn't understand that. And the pastor came down when he was doing this grafting, and that was the first time that he really connected. He said he needed to be grafted onto a stronger root. About that time it connected, we need to get this on film. So Jack got we had him stop, and Jack got the video camera, and we asked him to back up, and he just barely backed up to while I was grafting the wild grape onto the tape grape. And then he went into the story about the 33,000 volts, and that's what we really had on film. But I always knew Grandpa was a Christian. There was no doubt. He never said a cuss word. He never talked bad about anybody. He loved everybody. He was generous to a fault. I always knew he was a Christian, and it worried me because Grandma did not go to church. That really bothered me, and so I asked her about it. Why was she a Christian? And she said, well, of course I am. And I said, but you never go to church. And she said, well, it's because all of y'all are here. She said, that's the Martha duty. I have to take care of my family. I always go to church when y'all are here. And so she told me about when she was saved, that she was in the cornfield, and she was holy. And she had been going to revival, and she had gone night after night, and she had been trying to get saved. She just knew she needed to get saved. They talked about it. Her friend was saved, and she knew that there was a way that she needed to accept Christ as her Savior, but she did not feel saved. And she was in the cornfield hole, and she started praying, and she said, Lord, I've done everything I know to do to get saved, and if you want me to be a Christian, if you want me gets it right. She couldn't wait to get there to tell.
But I didn't hear that story. Jean knew it all her life, and I didn't hear it until they were at my house. And Daddy was telling Ellen Smith, you remember the day on April 1st, 1935, when we went over and got saved and got back.
That's always amazed me is his wisdom. And the stories that different people would tell show that wisdom. An example was somebody talked about a Bob carving on Miss Webster's car. She had this black, shiny black car. And it was just so pretty. And Bob was out there looking at it. He could see his face in it. And it was amazing to him. And so he got this nail and he drew where his eye was. And then he'd line that eye up and he'd line it right up where the eye was. So he'd get over here and he'd draw that up. Then he drew around his face. Which was a horrible thing for a kid to do. And you know what Grady Pop did? He went to the store, bought him painting supplies, pencils, paints, pens, and brought him home and said he understood that he was in pursuit of art. Bought particularly portraits and thought that he might want to practice on that instead of somebody's car. That's all he ever did.
Well, after he was saved.
Yeah, she didn't believe it was Bob that did it because it was so good. He was too old to do that. Another time, he and Bob were throwing, Jess and Bob were throwing rocks, and they would wait till a car would come. They'd hide down there behind those trees and wait till a car would come, and they'd throw rocks at it. And they hit Dr. Montgomery's car, and of course he went straight over there and told Grandpa was throwing rocks in his car. So what did Grandpa do? Did he go spank them? Did he go correct them? He went to the hardware store, bought gloves for both of them, baseball bat and a ball, told him he understood that they were trying to develop their pitching arm. Thought maybe they'd want to use those instead of throwing at cars. It's just amazing wisdom that he had in dealing with it.
You know, you're talking about how giving Grandpa was. You know, I got to grow up in the grocery store. They set out the old produce, the commodities is what he called them. And he'd go take a box to Mom, tell her to pick them out, get them cleaned up, cook what was good. He'd take the other box, several, however many there was, and take them to people he knew were less fortunate that couldn't afford to buy them. Never told them he just picked them up down the store, but took them to them and gave it to them for them to have something to eat. How many people have been to Grandma's house and been like in the worst mood, and you walk in her house and there's yellow butter cake right there? All the time.
Every time someone has told the story off was so thin, she died. She stayed on a diet. She was not going to get back. And so she and Jess were over at Mother's house, and they sort of gathered over there when she lived on Lynette. And she had fixed one of those butter cakes, big sheet paper. It was so good. Well, she would never eat that, but she, if you remember, would gather up the crumbs around, and she would eat those, but never a piece of cake. Well, she was watching TV, so she got all that cleaned up, and so I got a piece of cake, I scrambled it up, and spread it all out. She was watching TV, and she ate 6 pieces of cake. We were all just laughing and laughing. She said, what are you laughing about? And when we told her, she laughed with us. She just thought that was something.
Well, you know, she and Tom had a pancake eating contest. And I think she ate as many as Tom did.
When I grew up, I wanted to be rich enough to buy Tommy milk because Grandma never let him have enough milk. She would always limit. They each couldn't have a glass of milk. He'd want another glass. She'd give him another glass. And he'd want another glass. No, you can't. We have to share. Everybody has to have a say about it. I wanted to be rich enough to buy Tommy milk. And was that important? Of course not.
Yeah. How many of you got a Barbie doll cake on your birthday?
Buffalo on the Goodnight Ranch, and Pappy had bought a hindquarter for Pop's birthday. And somehow they got it from Amarillo, and they got it, no, it was from Clarendon. And Pappy had picked up a hindquarter, and they had had a big barbecue and had the folks in. It was Pop's 18th birthday. And he said, and several days later, that the Amarillo paper said that butcher had sold 23 hindquarters off of that buffalo.
she taught me so many things, and she taught me to sew is one of the things that she did, and she did that in such a unique way. She'd say, Jeannie, I'll make you a dress if you'll sew the shoulder seams. So I'd work and I'd sew the shoulder seams, and she'd finish the dress. And I thought I'd make that dress. She'd say, the next time, she said, I'll make you a dress if you'll sew the shoulder seams and the side seams. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I'd work, and I'd sew those seams and get those side seams done, and she'd finish the dress. And I thought I'd make that dress. And she did that until I had completed the dress. And I thought, what a unique way to teach someone to sew. And that was showing a lot of wisdom and determination on her part.
How many was given a sewing machine by Mom? I mean, they wasn't cheap either.
Yeah, really. What
They
you
were
going to
good.
store not?
And I imagine she worked hard for something to make the money to buy those.
Electric blankets.
I wanted to say one thing about Mom. We've been saying a whole lot about Pop, and we all love him so. But we ought to remember that behind every good man is a wonderful woman.
She had one man, but she'd teach me to drive at Dorothy's car, and we'd drive up to Lumpy's house and drive back. And they'd get to where they'd let me drive up there by myself. And I'd just drive back, and Dorothy had all those kids there for me to play with. I thought, well, maybe I didn't see. It reminded me of Carrie. The last 3 days she's been saying, I can't wait to all like babies. Grandma taught me to cook. She taught me to sew. She taught me to pray. She taught me to love other people. She taught me to be generous. You know, I never stayed at her house that we didn't take hot rolls to somebody else. She was always, and she might just take 4 or 5. She didn't take the whole pan, but she would take hot rolls or something to somebody else. She was absolutely generous to a fault.
And played under the table.
She played under the table with me. We built, had a house that was under the dining room table. I don't know what it was. She made doll clothes, some of which I still have. It was just a precious, precious person. The absolute thing that she taught me, I feel like was the most important thing that she taught me, is how to be a friend.
She did good.
It's an important thing.
I probably September or something, all you guys were there. I didn't know who fit with who, but I was sure that Granny Mom, I figured she was the oldest. Joyce didn't have gray hair. Doris didn't have gray hair. Betty Dean didn't have gray hair. And Jeannie didn't have gray hair, so I figured they were all sisters. And I figured Jeannie was just the last of the whole line. But we have a dog named after Pop, Ollie. Wes did that. And when Pop turned 90, he didn't have his driver's license. So he asked us to drive him down to Miami so he could get his driver's license. So we drove him down, he got his driver's license. I felt obligated to tell the patrolman there that he really probably wasn't ever going to drive, but he wanted that driver's license anyway. So he filled it out, got his driver's license. So we were on our way back to Perryton. And our driving record, the Chapman family, isn't very good. And we were getting back there up there on top, and I got stopped by a patrolman. Probably for speeding. And I expressed my concern that there goes our insurance, and Pop kindly offered me his license. He says, "You want my license?" And, so we should have done it at that time. Always thinking about it.
John, he would go help people from time to time. He'd go light their furnace or whatever he was doing. He had these jobs. They were lighting furnaces one day, and he went to one lady's house and he charged her $3 to light her furnace. And then went to the next lady's house and he charged her $30 to light her furnace. And Jack couldn't exactly understand that, but he explained that, well, she could afford to pay and the other lady couldn't afford to pay. They went into this one yard that the man was a mechanic, and he just had cars parked everywhere. And you go quite a ways. What do you think? 50 yards up to the house from the highway. And so he
they were there and they finished their job, and so they got in. And Jackson cars were just parked everywhere, and to back out, you backed out onto the highway. And he said Grandpa just gunned it. They just, I mean, he just fast. Just dust was flying back out onto the highway. And as he started going the other way, he looked over at Jack and he said, "Did we miss them all?"
And Mom, you might recall, was notorious for driving bad.
I remember.
Real bad. And so I was driving, poking along, and she said, "You know, when you go around that corner, if you get over on that other side of the road, in the other lane, you can go faster around on the corner."
She had that Buick, but she really drove fast on it, and it seemed like something was wrong with the accelerator, and so I looked down there, and there was a spool under it. It had been glued onto the floor. The accelerator, and she didn't know why it was there. She said, "Something hot did. He put that down there."
I think the hardest I've ever seen Jim laugh was when Freddie Mom came back to him.
Him and Carrington out there somewhere, and I don't know where we were. We were coming around a corner, and a car greeted us, and they didn't dim their lights, and she goes, "Dim them, damn it!" And then she got so tickled, she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She just laughed. I was shocked.
Embarrassed, I guess, Granny Mom embarrassed Dad when he went in. You guys went to the movie in Tampa. And Dad came in late, right? And he hadn't been drinking. Is this correct?
He said it was Mexican food.
No, all food, no, I remember my dad. We can't think about it.
But she said, "You've been drinking."
And this was in the theater, you know. I don't know what that would do to you, but it would just really embarrass me. Something terrible. And that was hard for Dad to swallow for long. I think that really ticked him off for a long
He
time.
must have just had Mexican food because it ticked him off.
I mean, he never let that die. He never let that. I would.
Pop came back one day and he'd been fixing somebody's toaster. And I remember him walking in the door going, "These widow ladies are going to kill me yet." He's been out helping one more widow lady and one more thing. These widow ladies are going to kill me yet. But he was still helping people even that age. They found her, in the middle of the night washing her hair, and they wanted to know who told that. She did. And they pick up.
Oh, I sit here and I hear all these stories. It brings back so many different memories. There's nobody I like more than Granny Mom. None in the world. And I'm not much on talking on people that I love as that much, but to me, he exemplified moderation in all things, you know, with the exception of love. I mean, he just couldn't give you that. But I've been on those trips working with him and going to people's houses, and we'd get through it. I mean, we'd worked hard on some of them and get the refrigerator going or get the washer or dryer going, and go down to the hardware store and get the belt or whatever it may be, and we'd come back, get on there. And there'd be some that just insist that pay him something, you know. It'd be just like you said, Jack, it'd be $2.39, and here's a receipt for it. You know, he'd pull that exact amount, only exactly what it costs, and if they made him do it. You know, he taught so many little things like that of just generosity and stuff. And the Bill Buick, the horn, do y'all remember the I can remember him coming over to the house, and I'd get before they get, you know, down the block here. Of course, Dad would get on and play, you know, different tunes on it and stuff, just to play with it. Just a million different memories like that. Pop, whenever he was up there working on the roof with the ladder, how old was he, 70 something? The ladder, he went to step off and blew the ladder off, and he just went all the way off a two-story house down on the concrete. Hit one of the washers just collapsed. And he said, "You know, Tom, the only thing I can think about doing is getting those things back in place." So he just threw the ladder back up there and just went stomping back to get those back in place. And the doctors swore up and down that he had some miracle reason that those broke, shattered down, or whatever, gave way, and then I had to go back and put them right back in place immediately, but that made all the difference. But I just remember those feet back and glue all the way up to his ankles.
It shows how tough they were in that time.
Oh, yeah.
You remember,
Keep Tommy says, just do it, get back, going in. Taking out, cool down.
we've always said the key to his long life was those naps. Hey, but he did spend a lot of time making things easy. As Joyce said, an example was his watering system. He had watering hoses running all over that entire place, set up where he could just turn it here and it'd water the front and he'd turn that off. And he had what are now called soaker hoses, but we didn't know that back then. They were just regular hoses that you poked holes in. And he just
Ball, the old set in the backyard, and Dennis and Tommy, they were all playing, you know, and I was quite a bit younger. They weren't really my age, and I was mad. I wasn't playing ball. And y'all let me shoot you a little bit when you're playing a game, shoot me away. And he piled up a pile of leaves that was about 6 foot high. Julie and I climbed up in the tree and jumped down it. That was the biggest fun we had. And of course we did that several times later, but remember that one time he just diverted my anger and my temper.
he spent a lot of time entertaining kids. He later turned out to be a physician. He did that. He's denied it, so it probably wasn't him that did it. But we don't know who it was. It doesn't matter. Granny Mom, when she would go to bed, she would always cover her face with Noxzema. And I said I could always, if I was blind, I could tell Granny Mom because she smelled like coffee and Noxzema. But every night when she'd go to bed, well, she would put Vicks on her nose, rub it on her chest. So this night she went to bed and she reached over to get her Vicks, and it was sort of watery, and she couldn't understand it. She started putting it on. She those kids are putting water in this Vicks, and she'd smear it around. I said, and it smells bad too. She put the lid on and set it back over there. Well, when she got up the next morning, I said, Mom, what happened to you in the night? She got up and looked in the mirror, and it was black indelible ink. It had to wear off.
Want a breakfast that's your size? Try Kellogg's Breakfast Mix. It's part of a smoked breakfast that's your size.
No, it's cool. Girl was gonna play at Barbie. We got a butterfly. And Barbie can do tattoos. Tattoos, girls. Check out my friend. Whoa. What's up, Barbie? I can go anywhere. Yeah.
You're Cinder. So where's your keys? I don't know. Preston, come here.
Yeah, I did that one. Let me see.
Okay.